Hello! Today we're going to be learning how to make this sticker using simple shapes in Adobe Illustrator. First things first, this is what my workspace looks like. If you want it to look the same, I have my properties panel here, layers, and then artboards. So if you want to do that as well, just go Window, then Artboards, Layers, and Properties, and then you can drag them to dock them wherever. The only panel you're going to absolutely need out of those three is the Properties panel for this tutorial. Next, my toolbar looks like this because I am using Illustrator's Advanced Toolbar. If you want to be using the Advanced Toolbar as well, just go to these three dots here, and then in this menu up here, just change it from Basic to Advanced. But for this, I'm going to be showing you shortcuts, so you don't necessarily need the Advanced Toolbar up. To get started, we're going to be starting with a rectangle, which is going to be making the body of our cup here. So as you can see, this comes in a little, so we're going to be making kind of like a trapezoid shape. So M is the shortcut for the rectangle tool, or it's just here in your toolbar, and it's not hidden under any other things, but some things might be hidden. So if you hold it down, you can access all of the hidden tools. So I'm going to make our rectangle like so, and it's pink at the moment. So if you ever want to reset an object back to Illustrator's default, which is white fill with a black stroke and the stroke is 1 point, just hit D on your keyboard while the object is selected and that will reset it. Right, so now I want to bring in these two corners towards the center so that it curves downwards, and after that I'll round the corners as well. So to do that, we're going to hit A. This is the shortcut for our direct selection tool. So I'm going to click here and then hold Shift and click here. Then I'm going to switch to the scale tool, which is shortcut S, and I'm just going to drag those in. V to go back to the move tool, and then this is what I'm looking at. Now I'm going to round the corners. So hit A again, and instead of clicking onto the anchor point, we're going to be clicking onto this circle here. This circle controls the curve of our corners. And if you don't click a corner to isolate it and you just start dragging them, it will do all of the corners in your shape. But we don't want that. We don't want these two corners to do that. So I'm just going to drag these, and I'm going to drag them almost entirely out. And so this is the shape we're working with now. To make the rim of the cup, it's going to be an oval. So I'm going to hit L for the ellipse tool. And I'm just going to make it the exact same width as the tallest part of our base. And then you can just make it however big you want. That's going to determine how big the rim is. We're going to line up the center of our oval with the top of our shape, but Illustrator Smart Guides will help you do that. So now we have a cute little bowl. To make the handle, we're going to use a rectangle. So I'm going to hit M, and you can see that when we create it, we can see these circles right away. So I'm just going to drag one of them, and that will move all of them. I want it to be completely rounded to make this shape. Then I'm going to rotate it just by grabbing the corners until my cursor turns to the rotate. And I'm going to increase the stroke. So I'm going to make it quite thick, something like that. And then I'm just going to shrink it down a bit and maybe bring that a little bit down. So now our path looks like this, but the actual shape is hidden in the center of that stroke. We want to normalize that stroke. We essentially want to set it in place. So to do that, we're going to expand it. So we go Object, then Expand, and I'm going to click OK. Now this, because I had it on default, started with a white fill, so I'm just going to ungroup it, which is Command-Shift-G or Control-Shift-G. And then I'm just going to delete that shape. Now I'm going to hit D on this shape. And so that has turned it into this handle shape. I'm going to send it to back, which is Command-Shift and then left square brackets, or Control-Shift and then left square brackets. And now I can tweak the rotation of it and resize it a little bit. So you see how our bounding box for it is rotated? We can change that just by right-clicking it, go down to Transform, and then Reset Bounding Box. And that will set the rotation to 0. So if we click off it, and then we click on it again, we can see that it's 0. You just need to click off it for it to realize that it's set as 0. So we've got the basic structure of our mug now. Let's create this liquid that's in here. To do that, I'm actually just going to duplicate this oval. So to do that, we're going to hold Option or Alt and then drag on the shape, and that will make a copy of it. I'm going to do that again. So Option and drag it, and I'm going to remove the fill from it. So I'm going to hit X on my keyboard, which is going to swap if I'm editing the fill or the stroke. And I'm going to remove the fill by hitting / on my keyboard. Then I'm going to decide how much liquid I want. So this shape in the middle is what we're going to be going for what the liquid we want is. So I'm just going to adjust that, say to there. And then I'm going to click and drag to select both objects. And now I'm going to hit K on my keyboard. This brings us to the Live Paint Bucket tool, which is basically how a regular paint bucket works, except it can work between your objects and layers. We can use our arrow keys on our keyboard to cycle through our swatches. And I'm going to choose just this orange so I can see things clearly. And as you can see, it filled in that shape between our two ovals. V to get back to the Move tool, and you'll see that our bounding box looks a little different to how things with groups looks. So to do that, we are going to click Expand from the Properties panel, which will turn it to a regular group, and then we can ungroup it. So with Live Paint Bucket, with the Live Paint Bucket tool, it can make a lot of layers of groups. And so if what our current selection that we've got is not entirely a group, in the quick actions, it's not going to say ungroup, but you can still hit Control-Shift-G or Command-Shift-G to keep ungrouping. So I'm just going to do that a few times, or a lot of times. And that will prevent us from finding any hidden groups within it. So now this is one shape, and I can delete all of this. I'm going to enter outline mode to see if there's any shapes left behind. So that's Command-Y or Control-Y, and there aren't, it's just this one. So now we have a fill for our drink. I want the stroke to be above the drink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this oval that makes our rim. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to remove the stroke. So X to swap them and then / to remove it. And then I'm going to paste in place, which is Command-Shift-V or Control-Shift-V. X again to swap to editing the fill, and then / to remove it. So now our stroke is on top of our shape. And that just gives us a really clear distinction between our drink and our cup. Now I'm going to make the marshmallows. To make these, we're going to start off with a rectangle, and then we're going to use the curvature tool to make it look a little more organic. So I'm going to make a square. So rectangle tool is shortcut M, and then I'm going to draw and hold Shift to make it a square. Then I'm going to use the curvature tool to pull out little aspects of it. And this is just going to give it more of a wavy finish, so it's not going to look so uniform. So to do that, just zoom in really far, just because I find that if you're zoomed out, it will start like pulling quite a great distance away. So we want more control. So we're zoomed in. Just start pulling out a little bit. pulling out and then in, and that will give us a more natural shape. So that's what we're looking at now. And then we're going to round the corners. It's important that you don't round the corners before you use the curvature tool, because if you round the corners first, that's made a curve and now it's going to warp everything else, whereas sharp corners kind of keep in place. So A for the direct selection tool, and then just drag out on one of those points to round it. And then we have a marshmallow. I am going to hit D to give it a fill so I can drag it out from the middle. And then I'm just going to resize it. So that's a marshmallow. And now I'm going to create these little waves in our drink. So to do that, we're going to take our pen tool, which is shortcut P, and I'm just going to make a straight line, and I'm holding Shift to keep it as a straight line, or snap to, I think it's 15-degree increments that it snaps to. So I'm just going to change the cap. So you see how this is quite a straight end. I'm going to click on the word stroke and change it to a round cap and a round join. I always change both of those just because if I'm editing a path, I don't want to be suddenly surprised by a sharp corner. Back into the curvature pen tool, and then we're just going to make our waves. Oops. So just drag out. You can hit slash to remove the fill from this. And I'm just going to make our wave. And I want the marshmallow to be below the water, the drink. So we are going to make a shape using this stroke. So we're going to copy it, Command C, and then we're going to paste it, Command Shift V. That's pasting it in place. Back to our pen tool, we're going to click on the end. So you see how over here, my pen tool has an asterisk on it. That means it's going to make an entirely new path. But when it turns into a line, it means it's going to continue on the path that we've currently got selected. So click there, hold Shift, and that will just keep all of our lines straight. And now for this shape, I'm going to hit I for the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to select this drink here. And that's just going to take on the properties. You'll see how it had a stroke on it, but when I click this, it removed the stroke. It means it's picking up all of the properties from this shape. Now, the only property I haven't seen it pick up when you're doing this is things like stroke width, but for the vast majority of things like stroke, fill, stroke weight, it's going to pick it up. We're going to send it backwards once, which is Command and then the left square bracket, or Control and the left square bracket. And there we are, we have our little marshmallow in our drink. Let's make a plate. The plate is really easy, it's just a couple of ovals. So to make those, we're going to hit L for the ellipse tool, draw ourselves an oval, and then I'm going to center back. So Command Shift and then the left square bracket, or Control Shift and the left square bracket. I'm going to copy and paste in place, and that's going to paste it on top. So we're going to center back again. And then we're going to pull it front once. So then Command and then the right bracket. So now it's sent all the way to back and then brought right in front of that last object that we sent back, which, as you remember, was the first oval. So now when we resize it, I'm going to hold Option or Alt and Shift. That makes the little dip in our plate. So there we are, we've got our basic shape for our mug. So let's now add some color to it. I'm going to increase my stroke for all of these shapes to about 5. And I've just realized that I didn't pick up. I'll move the rim to the front again. There we go. If you can see here, our cup has a sharp join, so we're going to change that to a round join, and that will help it blend in with the rim of the mug. Now I'm going to add some color to it, so I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool and pick it off my shape. Oops. For the rim of the mug and the bottom of the middle of the plate, I'm actually going to make these a bit darker. So to do that, I've got the color on brightness, and we're just going to drag that down a little, not too much. And then I'm also going to edit the color of our drink. So now that's looking a little bit more like a nice cup of hot chocolate. Let's make the marshmallow and our little wave bigger. Oops. And I'm actually also going to scale strokes for this. These should be grouped together. And so scaling strokes just means that it's going to be making the stroke size proportionately as we make it bigger. Now I'm going to bring that to front. And I'm actually going to make the stroke a little bit bigger in general. So there we are. Now let's make our white outline for the sticker. To do that, select all of your drawing. We're going to hold Option or Alt and then just drag it up to duplicate it. We're going to expand it, so Object, Expand. And then we're going to go down to Pathfinder in the Properties panel and unite it. So what this has done is it's just made this all one shape. If we go Command Y or Control Y, we can see that there are no overlapping pieces here. So I am just going to offset this path now. To do that, we go Object, Path, and then Offset Path. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to delete the centerpiece. I'm going to hit D for default, X to swap what one I'm editing, and then slash to remove the stroke. I'm going to send it to back, and I'm just going to group this here so that when we put them on top, we can align them to the selection. So there we are, that's what we're looking at. If you wanted to remove this little bump that's caused by the marshmallow, you can absolutely do that. We can hit A and see what anchor points we have. So we've got quite a few of them along this path. We can hit minus on our keyboard, and then that will allow us to remove anchor points. And so that's removed the little hump that the marshmallow gave us. So you might want to keep that, you might want to remove it. But either way, it's your decision. So that's how we make this cute little mug using simple shapes in Adobe Illustrator. I find that it was really difficult to learn how to identify shapes within shapes, more complex shapes. So for me, seeing real life examples of people doing this was massive for helping me develop my own vector art skills. For this, I would probably spend a lot more time tweaking it, but for this tutorial, I think this demonstrates how to find those simple shapes. But if you like that video, make sure to like and subscribe. I make new videos every Tuesday and Friday.